Made possible through support from ARC Thrift Stores, CCDC, Colorado Cross Disability Coalition, Developmental Pathways, Guided by Humanity, PASCO Personal Assistance Services of Colorado, and the Arc of Aurora. Think Change Talks. The lived experience of disability varies, both among people with disabilities and among racial and ethnic groups. The intersection of race and disability, a series of different perspectives.
All right, my name is Representative David Ortiz. My disability is paraplegia. It's ASIA AAT10, which is belly button level for those that don't know. And I am a Latino. My greatest passions now are mono-skiing, downhill skiing, cross-country skiing. I do love getting out mountain biking or trail biking when I can. Road biking is good too, and I'll kayak and camp on occasion. So I was an Air Force brat. My dad was in the Air Force, and we were stationed at McConnell Air Force Base at the time, which is in Kansas. I was going to high school in Derby, Kansas, and the year before my freshman year, members of the KKK came marching through my school and were handing out pamphlets. So that's kind of the very first time I've ever heard derogatory terms, and I'm not going to say them here, was my freshman year in that high school. I was doing a test that all the honor students were taking, and I was in study hall, and my study hall teacher was this older white lady. She was in her 60s. She was originally a home ec teacher. She wouldn't believe me that I was assigned to go to this test, so she followed me. She would not let me go unless she was going to follow me to where the testing area was and see me get signed in. Those are very real ways that I've experienced discrimination growing up when it comes to my race. And you continue to see it. I mean, Colorado does have 20% Latinos, but I went to college and worked my first jobs in Houston. And in Houston, we are 51% of the population. So to go from a place like Houston, then to serve in the military, which is actually very diverse, especially when you're talking about senior NCO and enlisted ranks, then to come to a place like Colorado, it was a bit of a culture shock for me. Being Latino, especially a first generation Latino. Latinos are not a monolith, I want to say that too, and so the differences between a Chicano or a Chicana and then also those that are first generations American for me are very great as well. So I always put things in perspective that I shouldn't even be alive. Like I was lucky to survive the helicopter crash that I survived when I was serving in Afghanistan. So a lot of the fearlessness comes from what else can someone do to me. I think a part of the shield that I have besides that is I'm a veteran, and I'm going to be honest with you, there is such a thing as veteran privilege. I remember when I first started interning to advocate for veterans here, there was a state senator that looked at me and said, "What did you do to yourself?" That's the attitude that those that live with a disability are constantly confronted with. And then it was only after I said, actually, I got this injury, from my service, that I was treated with more respect. And it shouldn't take that to be treated with respect. So I think it's a combination of having veteran privilege, but then also just not being afraid with having that perspective. I think those of us that live with a disability that come from communities of color have kind of a double lift that we're trying to navigate. And this, again, is just from my perspective, being a first-generation American, is not only are we fighting for accessibility here in this country, even though ADA has been law for 30 years, we're also fighting against stigma and prejudices that come from our lived cultural experiences, whether we're talking about mental health, so for those that have invisible disabilities, whether it's talking about you being a wheelchair user and the fact that this isn't even considered in other countries, and you're looked on as a burden, and so there's stigma attached around that. So, my perspective is we have to fight twice as hard, not just for accessibility and equity here in this country, but even within our own culture, when it comes to some of the ways some of us live. My biggest ask for white allies is to speak to your communities and to be a champion for us. And it's not just the small things, the not letting someone get away with something as overt as a slur, even if they don't realize it's a slur or not. But it's in the small ways, like an attitude. Not just the word choice, but in the attitude that they might approach something with, like, I don't understand why people with disabilities get to get on airplanes first, or if there's 5 open stalls and you go in with your friend and they choose the disabled stall, when there's 5 open stalls, don't do that. Like, I'm going to be honest, as a leg walker, especially in the Army when there's nobody really with a disability that serves in the military, but still, like, now realizing how critical that stall is, don't use it. And this is why. That is the only way that some might be able to use a restroom, and you're taking away that basic dignity. So for my white able-bodied allies, it's be an ally in big and small ways with your community, and then show up with us when we show up to, whether it's as activists or as electeds, to try and fight for change. I'll say the term, realizing that I've always known this, but it's been made more stark, which is systemic racism is endemic, and we still have a lot of work to do. I'm really proud of the Colorado Law for People with Disabilities, which I'm bringing forward now and working with Senator Danielson. It passed out of the House today, so she has it now, and hopefully she'll be able to bring it out of the Senate. It's a bipartisanly supported bill. So, as well as the work I got to do with Representative Van Beber on making state law, making it illegal to discriminate for those with IDD or any disability, for those to qualify for an organ transplant. So, those are the ways that I'm proud of this state, pre me being elected, but also being here, and we'll continue on that fight. My big ask, especially for those that have that intersectionality, even if you don't though, is if you're living with a disability, we need you to show up. We need to be seen and we need to be heard in order to affect change. I mean, the House chamber wasn't even accessible until I got elected here. The dais, in order to chair the Committee of the Whole, is not accessible, which is why you've not seen me chair the Committee of the Whole. So they're working on putting a lift on it. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do, but what helps is when those that live with a disability, especially those that have that intersectionality with their gender identity, who they love, or race, we need you to show up, because that's how we are able to make greater change faster. I'll just say crip the vote. I want to see more of us get elected. I want to see more of us that are able to, in a financial place, to give to candidates that we believe in and allies that we believe in, and to organize better around voting and around contributing to candidates that we believe in, because that's how you affect change.
If you feel that you or a loved one may have faced discrimination, contact your local Office of Civil Rights for resources and support. Think Change. Talks, trainings, and tools to helping your work for or with people with intellectual and other developmental disabilities. Learn more at www.thinkchange.training.